What's up guys, my name is Danny or Daniel. I draw cards and turn them into 3D prints using HueForge, and I also do HueForge tutorials for all of you. Today we are going to do another episode of the artist series, and today we are going to feature the artist by the name of Billy Hooper. You may have seen his really cool skull designs all over the internet if you have been doing 3D printing for any amount of time. He is a very talented 3D artist, and I am so excited to be doing this collaboration with him today. If this is the first time you've ever seen the artist series is a way for me to collaborate with real digital artists to make their work into something with HueForge. Whether that's turning a traditional 2D artist's work into HueForges or collaborating with people like Billy Hooper to turn their work into hybrid HueForges. Again, huge shout out to Billy Hooper for letting me use his work in today's episode. Please go check him out. I will have links to his website down below in the description. He does a lot of really cool work. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. This video is sponsored by New Makers. Want to keep your 3D prints fresh and vibrant? Meet New Makers, your go-to filament for quality, color, and consistency. New Makers has a growing library of colorful 3D printing filament perfect for your next project. They offer some of the brightest colors at very affordable prices. They also have a monthly subscription service, New Box, where you'll receive 2 spools of new colors or special materials and 1 spool of their standard PLA Plus for only $39. If you're looking for quality filament on a budget, go to newmakers.com and use code NEOKOIPRINTS at checkout for 10% off your next order. Today I want to use the Forbidden Fruit STL that he has done. This is over on Maker World as well, very popular model that he has done. I want to use this in conjunction with like a spooky apple tree. So basically I've generated a picture and we're going to use that today. Let's go hop over into HueForge and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so this is the image that I've generated here. You can see that we have this nice foreground and then we have a nice background with like the full moon in the background and some more apples in the background. Now we might have some issues with this picture, and the reason that we might have some issues is that these areas are not exactly black and white. I want to use color pop for this image. I don't necessarily want to use color match. I don't think that we need to use color match, but I want to use color pop because we'll be able to separate the background and the foreground, rather the background and the apples, the red apples, very well, and I think it will make the image pop a lot more. Now, I'm more focused on this branch and this apple here because this is where our 3D model is going to go. We'll probably cover up this entire apple here, but I at least want these red parts in the background to look good. I want the branch to look good, and I want the moon to look good. So when we run into this, let's go ahead up here in mesh mode. We're going to switch over to color pop. Now our image looks a little funky here. Let's bring this down to 0.04 layer heights to start out. And I think that we'll give ourselves a little bit more blend depth here so that we have more room in that color core to actually go at this image. So we'll do like 2.5. And we might not need 2.5. We can scale it back later on if we need to. Another thing that I like to do, especially for these hybrid HueForges, is I like to increase the base thickness at least just a little bit. We don't necessarily need to do it to 1 millimeter. We could probably do 0.75. I like to typically do at least 1 millimeter just to give it a little bit more thickness. That way, whenever we have an actual traditional 3D model on top of it, that weight is not making the entire HueForge flex. So for this one, I know that if we go back over to his website, this isn't going to be a super heavy model. I don't think it'll be a super heavy model anyways, and I'll be able to cut down on some infill because basically what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to split it in half. So I don't think that this is going to be too crazy. So we should be good at 1 millimeter thickness, and we'll see. If it's not good, then I'll increase it whenever I send it over to him. That way I don't know if he's going to post it publicly or what, but that way, if somebody has to print this, then they'll be okay. They'll be good to hang it up on a wall. Now, in color pop, we're separating the black and white areas from the color areas, right? I've done an entire video on how to use color pop. And for this, we need to figure out where the red areas are. Here you can see that HueForge has all of these colored areas in the grayscale part of this. But we're basically taking 2 HueForges and stacking them on top of each other. So right now we have a black and then we have white up here. We need to have 2 blacks and 2 whites. So here we will drag this black up and we will bring this white down. Let's bring this down. Now I'm going to find the closest filament that I have to this just so that we get a better visual representation of where our colors are. So I was mistaken, and our color areas are up top. Now, if you wanted your color areas on bottom, if you wanted them to print first, the way that you would do that is if we go over to model geometry, you should be able to invert, and that will change the colored areas. That'll swap your colored areas and your black and white areas whenever it's creating the mesh for you. Now, we can see that this is kind of a jumbled up mess. I do want the gray areas to be up top, I think. I haven't fully decided on that just yet, but it kind of makes sense. Nah, I think we'll stick to the way it was. So we'll have colored areas up top. We just have the blurred moon in the background. So again, this looks like a blurred mess, and the reason that it looks like this is because we have to mess with our tolerances. Right now, HueForge is trying to match this up 1-to-1 with colored areas versus black and white areas. And you can see here, if I scroll in a little bit, this is all red, and then in the actual image itself, there are these like red areas here, and it's trying its best, HueForge is trying its best to separate that from the moon in the background. So it gives you some of these artifacts, and it's not 100% perfect there, and we are able to mess around with the tolerances to clean it up. So right now I'm middle mouse wheeling up to kind of separate the two, and you can see that that is a little bit closer to what it should be. I'm not sure about up here in this general area. I think that this is going to be one of those problematic areas because this is technically a color with the gray-blue that we have here, this like shadowy blue. So it's not able, it's literally separating the color and black and white areas. That's why you see here at the bottom of the apple, it's closer to black in the image. It's actually going to that bottommost mesh. It's not staying in the apple. So this image itself might require a little bit of photo editing, which is not that big of a deal. We can totally do that pretty quickly. But you can see here, even with just doing a little bit of tolerance work, we are able to get a really good looking result. So yeah, now if we look here, over here on the right hand side of our color core, we have this slider. This is where our division line is going to be. So this is where, again, we're stacking two HueForges on top of each other. So we've got the red area, the colored areas on top of the black and white. This is exactly where we are going to start that split between colors and black and white. So if you don't have that much color, like for this image, we could totally bring this up. And you can see in the color core here, pay attention to the color core, you can see that we have some dotted lines and we have a solid line. The dotted lines are where you need your extra gap. That's your transitioning from your bottom HueForge to your top HueForge. And then you have that solid line. That is the actual division line, and it's following exactly where we're scrolling here. So yeah, so that is how we can, with this, like, if I wasn't adding a 3D model to it, I would probably make the red areas pretty thin. And so we wouldn't need that much. We wouldn't need this much blend area or this much blend depth. And so we would be able to really thin up the HueForge and save on print time. That's where the benefit of doing this comes in. So again, this might need a little bit of image editing just to get 100% right. You can see that we have this weird black area. I'm not sure what's going on there. If I bring this down, we get these little guys up here. If I get rid of this, I think, yeah, it's because we're right here. The reason that we have this black area is because it's kind of hard to see, but we have black all the way down here because we haven't lifted our white up like one HueForge like we do in standard mode. So you want to stack with the black with the white on top of it. So you need to have that white going all the way up to the division line, or at least close to it, where the transition happens. Otherwise, you'll get some wonky stuff going on. So we'll leave that there, and then we can come down on black a little bit. We can lighten up these apples. And yeah, so I probably will go into an image editor and just adjust a couple things. And what I want to adjust the most is I'm going to take the apples, all of them, and I'm going to just add a red hue to all of them. Just a little bit. It's like a very transparent red hue, just so that it's not, so that HueForge isn't having issues seeing this as true black. And then I will take all of the other colors, so all these blue areas and all these bluish greens, I will take these and I'll make these completely black and white. That way we give HueForge the best chance possible at matching these up 1-to-1. I think that for the branch, we will also include that in black and white. We probably only want the apples, and I think that this is, artist interpretation here. Whatever you want to do with your HueForges, you could totally like add a little bit of a tint here of color so that it's red as well. But yeah, so we'll go over into the image editor and I will get this all doctored up and then I'll show you whenever we come back. So now we have this. I did an HSL adjustment and within Affinity Photo to get this difference of color, and I changed the color so that it'd be a little bit easier to see while we're doing this video. Now you can see that the tolerance slider is a little bit lower now. We can bring that up if we need to, but I don't think that we will need to. But we have a good separation of the background to the foreground now. If I just get rid of this black, you can see here that the entire apple is part of the foreground. Same with like all the shadows in the background here. So that was kind of the goal whenever we were doing the image editing. Now you can see here that we have a couple issues, but that is a-okay. Overall, it looks a lot better than what we were doing before. So yeah. Now, let's get into actually making this look the best that it can. We're going to put the model down. I didn't make the branch black and white. I kind of like the way that it looks being red. It helps with the separation between the two. So I left it. I chose to leave it the way that it was. Now, I think that we need to add a couple grays just to kind of help with the shadowy effects of the moon and everything. It just looks a little bit too bright as far as the background is concerned. So I have some pretty high TD grays in penumbra gray to give it that spooky effect, but still let some of that light shine through. The other gray that you could have is like Polymaker's Panchroma Gray is a good one. They have a pretty high TD gray in their CMYK pack. So, there are a few grays out there, but overall, most grays are going to be really, really opaque. You can see most of my grays in my filament library are basically opaque at 0.1, 0.3, a 2. Like, those are very low TDs when it comes to any kind of filament. That means that there's not going to be a lot of light passing through it. So, we need to use something that's a little bit higher. You might be able to get away with like a 2 TD, but overall, just having something that is a lot higher is super beneficial when you're doing HueForges in general to get those smoother gradients. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out what we're going to do with these reds. I want to get a little bit more detail coming through in the background. I think that if we go and we use like a higher TD red, what are we using here? I think we're using a 3.8, yeah. If we use like a more high TD of red, it should help bring out a little bit more detail as far as the red is concerned in the background. I'm not 100% sure as to why we have so much black here. Let's leave that down. The apple doesn't matter. Remember, we're going to stick the model, the actual 3D model, where this apple is hanging down. And so, let's see. I kind of like where we're at with this, to be completely honest. And I say that because of what I have planned. Not only are we going to cut the apple in half and then put it down, what I really want to do is in every episode of the Artist series for Season 2, I have done something a little bit different with these hybrid HueForges. Whether it was using glow-in-the-dark filament in multiple models, or what did we do in Season 1? We did an episode when we did a more perspective, like top-down view. Or Episode 2, I had the dragon head coming out of the actual HueForge. So for this one, what I want to do is, because we're dealing with eaten apple here, this is not going to cover up. There, that looks perfect. This is not going to cover up, 100%. If we were to do it to scale to the size of this apple, we'd still see the red behind it. So what I want to do is I want to have this apple enlarged, this actual 3D model enlarged, and coming off of the HueForge. Now, I haven't done this before, so this will be a first. But I think that we could get away with like a 150 by 150 HueForge, the size of the actual HueForge, and then we can cut this in half and put this here. And I think that having it actually hang off of the model really sells that it's a 3D print. rather than it just being on this like a 3D painting, if you will. So yeah, so we'll do that, and then I think that that's gonna look good. I think that's gonna look really good. So let's do 150 here, and that'll shrink it up so that it can fit on just about any build plate. I think 256 is pretty much the standard now. And then we might add a little bit more black to it, a little bit more darkness to it. I think that this Imperial Red might look really good. And then we can stack that higher TD, brighter red on top, the HP 3D. I'm running out of this filament, and I don't think they sell it anymore. So I'm going to find another mid to high TD red. This HP 3D was just some stuff I found on Amazon like years ago, and I'm finally getting to the last like 100 grams of it. So it's, yeah, I gotta find a good 6TD red. So again, we're gonna make this model come off of the print, and I want to do multicolor. So I want it to be, I want to have the brown stem, I want to have the red of the apple, and then I want to have like a bone white filament here. And I'll show you guys how we're gonna do that to where we can paint and do the HueForge swaps in the same model. So let's go ahead and we'll export this and we'll get over into the slicer. So one thing I forgot to mention before we get over into the slicer is now whenever you are exporting your project, there's an advanced options box that you can click on. And then within here, we have our STL export. And then we also have remove background if we had a PNG. But we also have split by color. And what split by color is going to do is it's going to separate each of these colors into their own individual objects. That's why it says it will generate a lot more triangles. It's going to separate them into their very own objects so that we can color them, and then we'll be able to do multicolor if we do like a hybrid HueForge. So I'll show that off today. I forgot that we had added this in the most recent update. Beforehand, we had to do a lot of this stuff manually. So having this as an option is very nice. So I'll do this. So for you guys, this is just like a second. For me, this has been 2 days of trying to figure out how to slice this. So it has taken, I left my computer for 24 hours to let it try to slice because we're dealing with about 8 million triangles. Orca Slicer does not take too kindly to 8 million triangles. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to do the old workaround. Rather than exporting all of these as separate models, we'll export it as a normal HueForge, and then we're going to do a bunch of height range modifiers for these. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it will still allow you to paint onto the physical model, and it will still allow you to do the HueForge in the background. So I will get into how to do that as well, but I just wanted to show you guys that right now this is not feasible, but hopefully in the future it will be. I think that there's some optimization that needs to happen whenever we're exporting these models from HueForge. So let's go ahead. We'll grab the regular version of this, and yeah, we'll get into it. In order to have painting and HueForges, we have to do a bunch of height range modifiers for the actual HueForge to print like we need to. And I'll show you what I mean here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to delete this plate. That way we have less things for Orca to really care about. And we will remove this plate as well. So here, we're going to assemble these as we normally would. And then I need to add a bunch of height range modifiers to the assembly. So I think we used 5 colors, if I'm not mistaken. And so what this means is we need to have at least 5 height range modifiers because we have the painted area. If we didn't have the painted area, we could get away with just 4. But let's go ahead and I will add all of these. I forgot that you don't click on the assembly to add it. You just come down to your height range and you come to layers, and then down here it'll tell you where you're going to add more height ranges, and you just click this plus button and you can add as many as you want to. Let me tell you how long that took me to figure out the first time I was trying to do this. That was a fun day. Nope. All right, so the thing with the describe text is right now it tells you where to actually swap the layer according to the bar on the right. Back in the day, it didn't. It used to actually show you when the color started. So the describe text was a little bit different. So it's the same thing for here. So right now we're starting with black. That's our base color of the HueForge. And then for this first height range, we're gonna go with we're gonna go with I want to have both of these up. We need to have this first height range from 0 to 1.08. And then the second height range will have 1.08 to 1. What is this? 1.48. And so basically what we're going to be doing here is we're subtracting zero point zero 0.04 layer heights because that is what we have selected as our layer heights in general for this HueForge. And so that is why we're subtracting one, is because we're telling it within a certain height range, whereas this is telling us at this particular layer, at 1.12 millimeters, that is where we need to make the swap, if that makes sense. So we need to have the top of the height range to just below this, because this is where the next color will start. So I hope that makes sense. Um, Now, we'll also have to have a height range modifier for the apple, just like we did beforehand. So let me go through. I'm going to make sure that all of these are the way that they need to be, and then I will be right back. So now, because we have these, we can color these individually. So it's not individual objects, it's just individual height ranges where we're actually going to be printing at particular layer heights and different parameters than what we were doing for the overall object. So height range modifiers are super useful outside of HueForge as well. Maybe you have like a sphere that you want to print out. At the top of the sphere, you know how you can get like a weird like circular effect. It's not completely smooth. That's where height range modifiers are super useful. But yeah, so here we're going to make sure that this is black. And then our second color, we swap to that gray. We've gone through and added all of our colors. I missed an actual height range modifier here. So if we look at the described text, this is important. It says that the max allowed thickness is 3.52. So this is the top of the height range. So we need to add another one for that white color for that last swap. So let's do that really quick. Super simple. We add in the last one, and we will make this from 2.72 all the way to the top of this HueForge, which is at 3.52. And this will also be white. And so now each of those height ranges will have its own colors. And if we slice that plate, totally forgot. We don't want to slice this entire multicolor giant object at 0.04 layer heights at 100% infill, because that will surely cause issues. So let's just grab the forbidden fruit. We'll bring it in. We're going to line it up the way that we had it before, somewhere around here. That looks pretty good. Might even bring it up just a hair. I don't remember where we had it exactly. Somewhere around there should be good. And then I actually want to scale this up just a little bit more. We'll just cover up the entire apple underneath. Have it hang off a little bit. Something like that. Now that is weird. I have never seen that happen. Why are you all the way in the air? Let's put that to 0. Okay, now we have everything down at 0. That should not be the case. Let's grab just the HueForge. Huh. Always find something weird. Always find something weird. So let's bring this all the way down to... So now I think we're on the build plate. Not 100% sure there. I'm not sure why it's showing negative 2560. That's a weird one. I don't think I've ever seen that in this slicer. Huh. Anyways, let's we'll move on. So we've got it. I guess that's something to look out for. I've never actually seen that before. No, I guess it's not all the way down because the apple is definitely all the way down on the plate. So let's grab this. We'll continue to move it down until we see. I think that is down. I'm gonna grab just the forbidden fruit. We're gonna bring this up. We'll bring it over. It stays within the parameters. We might have it just down on the plate. Yeah. All right, weird. I don't think I've ever had it do that in Orca. Anyways, so now that we have everything assembled the way that we want it, we need to add one more height range modifier. So we are going to add that in here where it says default. This one we're going to want to have from that 3.52. So we'll go one layer above that. We'll do 3.56 and we're going to say, I want to say, let's do 200. Arbitrary number, not a big deal. So, okay, that might be too much. Let me just, still an arbitrary number. Whatever, it's fine. It's don't look too hard at it. Okay, so we're gonna bring this up to a 0.16 because this is a more detailed model. We'll bring the wall loops up to 2, like we would with normal models. We'll bring the infill to 25%. Honestly, we'd probably do 15%. What else do we want to change in quality? I think everything there looks good. In strength, this is where we want to change our bottom shell layers again. We'll do this to 4 and 4. And then we'll change from rectilinear to gyroid just because I think gyroid works better. Really anything works better than rectilinear. And multi-materials, good. Other is fine. Speed should be good. Okay. So now we have it completely set up. On my tool changer, you want to set the prime tower to the front. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of weird stringing where so this is the front of my printer, and if it comes down, if the tool head comes down here and then tries to move all the way over to the prime tower, it causes a potential ooze or a potential string, so you don't want that. But that's just my printer. You probably won't run into that. So anyway, so let's slice this up. And with that, we are done with today's video. I printed this model 3 different times. We failed twice. One time I failed because my tool changer, it just failed to dock, and when that happens, it shuts the entire printer down. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. The next time that I failed, also on the tool changer, was because I had a little bit of under extrusion. I think it was the red filament that I was using for the dark red aspect of this. Like I said earlier on in the video, that I think that red is just a little bit too silky. It has a little bit too much of an additive that is causing a lot of under extrusion. So I switched reds. I also had some issues with that black spotting because of the way that I painted this model. So if you run into this, make sure that you make the base model the color that you are going to use. And this is just a general tip for painting in general when it comes to 3D printing. Is like for this one, most of the surface area of this object is white, so you might as well make the entire object white so that you're not having to paint over a certain color. So just make sure that you do that, and then it'll make your life a heck of a lot easier. So then I finally switched off of the tool changer and I switched the filament, and that is where this final piece came through. This turned out awesome. I switched over to a more dark red for the apple. I think that it fits the theme a little bit better as well. So let's talk about the actual print. Because I used ColourPop, you can see a lot of these peaks and valleys, and it has a lot more depth because we are literally stacking the colored ranges on top of the black and white ranges of this image. It gives it that like shadow boxy feel, and I really love that. That's why I love making those really thick HueForges whenever I'm doing color match, because it makes it really feel 3D. It makes it more than just like a wall art or a painting. And then also having the 3D model from Billy Hooper adds to that effect even more. And speaking of Billy Hooper, huge shout out to him. I will have his links down below in the description. Please go check out his work if you haven't already. He does some amazing work in Nomad Sculpt. He does some tutorial type content. He does live streams. The dude is everywhere, and I love his work. And I'm very appreciative of him for letting me use his work today in today's artist series. And with that, I hope that this video helped you learn how to use HueForge and a 3D model and put them together to make a really cool looking hybrid HueForge. These videos would not be possible without my Patreon members and my YouTube members, and I really appreciate every single one of you guys. If you have any questions about what was talked about in today's video, please drop them in the comments. I will do my best to get back to every single one of them, and I hope you learned something.